Hello, welcome back. My name's Andy. Today we're going to be going through how to light a coke or a coal forge, or how I do it at least, and something that a lot of the YouTube videos out there on lighting a forge don't cover, and that is the science behind it all. So let's get cracking. Okay guys, so fire is made up of three different elements. Firstly, you need heat. You need an oxidizer. Now typically that is either air or, just plain old oxygen. So basically something that releases oxygen in order to help things combust. And finally, you need a fuel. Now in our case, obviously, for a solid fuel forge, the fuel is going to be either coke or coal or charcoal maybe. So altogether this is known as the fire triangle. Now you can't have a fire without all three of these elements. So if you haven't got enough heat, then no fire. If you haven't got any fuel, no fire. If you haven't got enough oxygen, no fire. So this is why people kind of struggle lighting the fire to begin with, because typically they haven't got enough air or they haven't got enough heat. So if you were to take, say, a red hot piece of steel, there's no fuel or oxygen in that piece of steel, there's just heat. So if you were to then put that piece of steel onto a block of wood, for example, the wood would be your fuel, and then the oxygen in the ambient air would be your oxidizer, and then suddenly you would get fire. That's why if you stick a red hot block of steel onto a piece of wood, you get flames, so you get a fire. Okay guys, so in our case, the fuel that we're using is either coal or coke. These have a relatively high ignition temperature, so you have to put in a lot of heat for them to ignite. So this is why we use something like wood or charcoal, which has a much lower ignition temperature, so you light that initially to then raise the heat in order for the coke or the coal to ignite. Now I know that some guys have got soft coal, like bituminous coal, which is quite easy to ignite. I've seen people use just a big ball of paper to do it in the past. I'm using coke, which is a lot harder to ignite. The coke that we get in the UK isn't the best. It is really quite hard to ignite. In my last workshop I used to use charcoal to ignite it, which was nice and easy. I don't have any charcoal in this place, so I tend to use wood. If I had something like, say, an oxyacetylene or an oxypropane torch, I would use that. That would be far and away the easiest way to do it. Just get it on, stick it in, let it go for a couple of minutes, and then you'd be fine. So that's our fuel. The heat, as I say, comes initially from the woods that I'm going to burn, so that will create enough heat to get up to temperature for the fuel to light. So finally the oxidizer, that's just normal air. That comes from our blower. Obviously, whether you've got a bottom blown or a side blown forge, it doesn't really matter. It's obviously the same thing. So you put all three of those together and that gives us the fire. So that is the science behind the fire. So let's get cracking and get it lit. Okay guys, so this is my side blast forge. Before we light the fire, what we have to do is clean out the worst of the clinker. So for those of you that don't know, clinker it's just a collection of an oxide layer from the steel that you've been heating and any impurities in the fuel. It's effectively just really crappy glass that's all just melted together. And so little pieces like this don't do a huge amount of damage. If you can get them out, but if not, don't worry too much. The piece that I'm about to pull out of the fire just now is the main bit that you want to get rid of. In a bottom blown forge, it's the same thing. You just dig it out as best you can. So this is basically the only time that I ever use my poker. So get it in. And there it is. So just get rid of all of that. Doesn't aid you at all. It's just crap. So clean out all these other bits. Sometimes we'll get a harder bit like that. Just clean it all out. Okay, so that's all cleaned out. Now we'll chop up some wood, stick that in there and get that going. As a side note, I have heard of people kind of giving it away and calling it dragon poo, which is quite funny. But a lot of other people, they just collect it up in a bucket and use it to fill potholes in their driveway, or people use it as drainage in pots for plants as well. So it can be useful for something, it's just not any good in the fire. Okay guys, so I've cut up a whole bunch of wood. This is just scrap left over from a pallet, just pine, nothing special. I've also got a ball of paper just to get things going. This has obviously got the lowest ignition temperature out of the entire lot. So we'll light this, which will light this, which will light this. So, here's my matches. Now I'm going to turn on my blower, just to really low. If you find it's getting a bit smoky, just break a hole in the pile, let some flames come through. That will get some hot air running up the chimney and draw the smoke up a bit. So there we go, starting to go now. We'll just let that tick away in the background while we sort some other bits out, and then come back in 5 minutes and it will be good to go. Okay guys, so we're about 5 minutes after lighting. As you can see, we've got a good bed of coals in the base there. The smoke is effectively gone because there's enough heat coming off of the fire to draw anything up into the chimney. So as I was saying before, this particular coke isn't very good. Just found a piece of steel on my fire there. It does take quite a while to light. In my previous workshop I was using a different fuel called Welsh steam coal, similar to the kind of softer coal that you guys get in the States. It was a lot easier to light and generally a much nicer fuel, but I can't really get it up here. It's a lot harder to get. So I'm basically stuck with this for the time being at least. So there we go, it's going nice and good. Nice and good. It's going nice and good. Should have mentioned right at the start, as ever, safety first, eyes and ears. This stuff does have a tendency to spit if there's any moisture in the grain, if you like. It will explode and spit at you. I've had one shoot past my ear with a rather frightening velocity in the past, so safety first guys, safety first. Cheers guys. So, I hope that clears things up for you, kind of explains a bit of the science behind it and maybe helps you understand what's going on if you're struggling to light your fire. As I say, that's how I do it. There's hundreds of different other ways to do it, I'm sure. By far the easiest way to be oxyacetylene torch, just straight in there, get a bit of a burn going on and then turn your air on. I steadily increase the flow of air as the fire gets a bit stronger, get a bit more air in and get a bit more combustion as a result. Yeah, so if you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, please subscribe, that'd be great. As ever, I am far more active on social media than I am on YouTube, so if you don't already, you should follow me there. And yeah, so how do you light your fire? Why don't you take a picture and tag me on Instagram? That'd be cool. See how you guys do it. As ever, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. All the best. Bye.